4 days ago, I was able to ascend for the 4th time with my Gas Grenade Explosive Grenade Witchhunter. In this build guide, I'm going to show you all of the learnings that I have made throughout this build's journey. I will run down the passive tree, the skill setup, and also the gear. For the general playstyle, you are popping out gas grenades that cover a huge amount of area due to shooting multiple with scattershot, and then you are exploding those for a lot of damage with your explosive grenade. The explosion of the gas cloud does quite a lot of damage, therefore we are using the explosive grenade as a detonator to explode the gas grenade. Very important here is that the more overlaps you actually create, making the area of effect of the gas grenade bigger, the more damage you are going to deal in single target. This basically looks like this, where you shoot the gas grenade and afterwards instantly shoot the explosive grenade. Then basically the explosive grenade explodes, triggering not only the gas grenade's poison damage that it already does, but also the big explosion. So it's basically a 2-button playstyle that is tremendously fun because you have insanely big AoE with extremely good clear in maps. The link to the planner is down in the description below, and here you can see the leveling setup as the explosive grenade variant. And if you want to also check out the gem cutting order in which you should actually be using your gems to be cut, there you can see that we're also using shield charge as soon as possible, and we're then swapping to leap slam afterwards. You can see this also here at the top. We also do oil grenade for fire exposure, voltaic grenade, flash grenade, artillery ballista, herald of ash, leap slam for the leveling of the explosive grenade. Then leveling gas grenade is a tad bit different, but definitely possible. As soon as you get gas grenade, this is basically already your end game build that you are leveling with. And then right here on step 3, you can see the end game setup for the gas grenade, explosive grenade that we saw at the beginning of the video. Here, it's very important that you check out the supports. I have sorted them in descending priority. So what is on the far left is the most important, whereas the thing on the far right is the least important. So that way you can go through and equip the support gems respectively. Then very important here for the explosive grenade, the fuse duration is pretty long with 2.5 seconds usually. We're reducing that with fast forward, and it's actually not a big deal that we lose out on one support gem by using fast forward, because the main damage is coming from the gas grenade's explosion. As you can see right here, we do have 468% attack damage scaling on the explosion damage of the gas grenade, and converts 100% of physical damage to fire. Therefore, it's also really important that we have fire exposure, which is being taken care of by the oil grenade. Here you can see that the oil grenade applies fire exposure, which is able to lower your total the enemy's total fire resistance by 20%, and this actually can go into the negative. Penetration cannot reduce the enemy's resistance below 0, but exposure can. Therefore, we are also supporting that with strip away, increasing the exposure effect to -26. And we also do stuff like encumbrance and also the spoiler to further amplify that. Then afterwards, we have the voltaic grenade, because it has 50% more electrocution buildup, which is actually a really nice ailment, because it basically stops any actions from enemies for 5 seconds. A really good tool, not only offensively, but also defensively. And it also does quite a lot of damage. We support this with Conduction, Neural Overload, and Culling Strike, because we don't have Culling Strike anywhere else. Voltaic Grenade is going to fill that role and is going to be used very late at the end of a boss encounter to just cull the last 5% of a mob's or a boss's HP rather. Then the Neural Overload and the Conduction are therefore more chances to shock, and an earlier electrocute. This basically primes enemies, which can then be electrocuted a little bit earlier with the Voltaic Grenade. Flash Grenade is there for boss staggers. Everything that supports this further amplifies the staggering of a boss. Then, very important for late game mapping is the Wind Dancer setup. Here you can see that we are using Vitality, Clarity, and Cannibalism. Very important here is that you should definitely take it in this order right here that I have now updated with clarity, cannibalism, and vitality. In case you don't have enough spirit, as I said previously, if you just leave out the last one, you're gonna be fine. The more spirit you have, the more you're going to add to this. And if you get really lucky and you get, for example, spirit on the chest or spirit on your amulet, then you can also set up a blasphemy enfeeble setup, which is further decreasing the enemy's damage, basically making you almost invincible. Wind Dancer and Blasphemy together are giving you tons and tons of defense, which is actually really important as you climb higher up in your map tiers. Then for mobility, we're using the offhand with a for the leap slam, we use a one-handed slim mace with attack speed because that has the highest base attacks per second. And also the attack speed is further amplifying that. And then you take a shield with whatever stats that you want. They are actually completely irrelevant. For the passive tree, there is a very cool feature here with the Maximum Planner. We do have a leveling tree up here where you can go step by step throughout the whole leveling tree. When you click down here, you can see how the tree is also evolving. There's also arrows that take you through every step along the way. There's also a little respec that you have to do to make early game a little bit easier. We're going this way around, and then as soon as we have this big two-handed damage cluster, we unspec these little points right here to get the cooldown reduction, and then you can see it's smooth sailing there onwards. You're gonna use the gold, you will have it easily available at that point to swap around, and then you can see how the leveling tree is evolving. Then at some point you're gonna go and use the maps tree. Here you have the same spiel again, where you can actually click around and see the tree evolving. At the very end, I have also included the ascendancy points. You are starting out with Zealous Inquisition for the big pops or explodies in the campaign. Very strong, in my opinion, for the campaign as additional clear. Then you're going to go into Culling Strike for the campaign again. And then you're going to do Decimating Strike. But as soon as you get the Decimating Strike, I would urge you to completely respec the thing as soon as you go into maps to start using No Mercy and Witchbane together with the Sorcery Ward and Ceremonial Ablution. It's very important here, though, is you do not click the Sorcery Ward before you don't have very high armor and evasion. You do this by actually following the tree. You do see that we have armor and evasion scattered around the tree everywhere, which is going to help you out tremendously getting that armor and evasion rating very, very high. On top of that, Wind Dancer gives you a more evasion rating as well, making it much easier to hit high armor, high evasion rating. If you go to like 55% armor reduction and 60% evasion, that's good. Then you can click Sorcery Ward. Ideally, you want to go higher. Very important here is we need to combine the leather-bound gauntlets with your gear. Here you can see that you get 1 evasion rating per 1 armor on equipped gloves, and that brings us to the gear right here. Very important to make the maximum, to get the maximum out of that node is to get an armor piece of gloves and then scale the armor there very highly. Here you can see that the armor is insanely high, giving you also insane amount of evasion rating. Therefore, you have that conversion basically going on here. And you can see we want evasion and armor bases literally everywhere with maximum life and triple res, also increasing the armor and evasion rating on the prefixes. Then for the gloves, as I said, just go for the armor to make the best out of the leather-bound gauntlets notable. For the rings, ideally at some point you want to start switching to amethyst rings that also have chaos res. Here you can, if you want, go for physical damage to attacks as well. There's also the possibility to go max mana, for example, but if you want the absolute best for damage, then that would be what you take. Very important here is that you take the leech physical attack damage as mana somewhere on your gear during leveling. It's going to be amazing because in combination with your Zealous Inquisition, which you have during your leveling process, you are going to leech from that damage, and that is going to instantly refill your mana during clear. And on bosses, you just have to watch out that you go and use your mana flasks sparingly and not just spam them away. I never had a problem with mana on the bosses in the campaign like this. It was totally fine. Then for the build, we're going to go with armor, max life. You don't really need the charm slots here. And then for 2 or 3 rest, depending on how it's looking like. For the amulet, as I said previously, you also have the option to go spirit here. That's where I would drop the 110% increased armor for ideally, and then go for spirit to actually enable the blasphemy setup, which is definitely not required. Here you can see that we want max life, plus level 2 projectile skills, chaos resistance, damage taken, recouped as life, but this is going to be one of the most expensive amulets that you can find. So if you only get just 1 or maybe even 2 of these stats, it's totally fine. You don't need chaos resistance early on in maps, in tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You absolutely don't need any chaos resistance, so go for an amulet that actually has max life and 2 or 3 reses. If you can also get a level of projectile skills on top of that, that's all going to be an amazing amulet to start out with. And for the crossbow, you really want to go for an expert bombard crossbow as soon as you can. Ideally, you want to scale the physical damage as high as possible, and to do that, we are scaling the increased physical damage. Then we are also using the % increased physical damage accuracy hybrid and the flat physical damage. On top of that, ideally you want to have attack speed, level of projectile to all skills, and then leech's mana. If you have leech mana on the gloves or maybe on your rings, for example, then you could go for leech physical damage as life on the other 2 or 1 slots if you want. And that is going to help you out tremendously when it comes to getting the character started. I had tons of fun playing the Gas Grenade, Explosive Grenade, Witchhunter, and it was a blast discovering all of the things that you can do with it. Now I'm basically off to the next build. I'm gonna go a lightning. There is a very cool shock burst and galvanic shards, or maybe even explosive shot build that I have discovered that I'm going to now swap to and take you with me on the journey. If you have any questions to the Gas Grenade Witchhunter, or you want to see what I'm gonna do next, then I suggest you check out the Twitch, which is gonna be linked down in the description below. And if you like content similar to this, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, and I'll see you next time.